Okay, well, hi everyone, and thank you very much for watching or listening. Liam Hartree here today with another episode of the Simply Inspired podcast. And today I'm joined by a very special guest. I'm joined by Angel Diamond, Ironman athlete, who has some incredible achievements to her name, including being an Ironman finisher, an Ironman 70.3 World Championship finisher, Ironman All World athlete as well. But it's not only this lovely lady's amazing sporting achievements that are so exceptional today, it's also some of the things that she has overcome to get where she is today. And this is a message of hope, a message of encouragement and positivity that we hope will touch a lot of lives. I believe it will. So, as always, we won't just be talking about sports, but we'll be going deeper into different aspects, overcoming obstacles, some of the mindset that it takes to reach such a high level in one of the toughest sporting events anywhere in the world as well, and some other cool topics like that. So, Angel, thank you for coming on the show. That's enough of me talking about you in third person there. Thank you for taking time out of your morning to do this. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Liam, for having me on your show. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure, and I appreciate you bearing with me because just for our viewers as well, obviously moving from the UK, from Wales, where I'm from, over here to Cyprus, doing these in an improvised manner like this, which is a little bit improvised to say the least. I appreciate you bearing with me, Angel, during that transition, because I know we were originally booked in the UK, and I appreciate the viewers bearing with me as well because moving countries has been a massive adventure. So, anyway, that's enough about that. So, obviously, at the moment, people look at you and they see your incredible achievements. They see everything that you're doing well, everything you have achieved and everything that's yet to come. But your life wasn't always like this. Now, I know how delicate this is, so we'll only touch on it briefly. But before we get into any of that, tell us a little bit about where you grew up, where you're from, and if sports was ever something that interested you in those early years, or if that was something that came later, please.
Yes, so I was born and raised in Germany. I grew up in a little village in the Alps, and sports was always the main subject in my life. I went skiing, and I was actually a competitive figure skater. Later, I became a professional figure skater. Sports was just present in my entire upbringing. So it was just like, it feels like a second nature to me. Like a life without sports, I can not even think about that. It's like the air I need to breathe. And so it started at a very young age. I was put on the ice when I was 2 years old. And from that age on, I was just like, yeah, doing sports all my life.
Well, that is amazing. What an amazing background, and some very skilled sports there as well that take a lot of dedication. So at that time, were you planning to continue to compete in those, in the figure skating and skiing and things you mentioned there? Were you planning to sort of continue doing that into adulthood and everything at that point in time, looking forward?
Well, it was kind of a thought, I guess, because it was everything I knew since such a young age, and it would have been just kind of the natural development to kind of go that way. However, it didn't really, even though I was kind of into it and all, it wasn't, I was more into a different kind of sport rather than figure skating. So at some point, I just, didn't want to do it anymore. And it's also very taxing mentally and physically. And I came to a point in my life where I just had enough of it and I just couldn't do it anymore. So that chapter had to just end at some point. And that's how it came. I was kind of just born into it. My mother was a professional figure skater. My father was more into skiing, but everybody came from a sports background, so it was just the kind of the natural thing for me to become an athlete in that sort of way. But at one point, that just needed to end.
Absolutely. Well, I imagine there may have been a process there of you finding maybe the sports that you were passionate about rather than the ones that your parents wanted you to be. I mean, obviously you love it, but was there ever that relationship where there was sort of the love, but maybe a little bit of pressure as well, or a little bit of expectation to almost have to do it in a way, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it was a little bit of that where you were kind of pushed that way. And since, yeah, it's really went that way where I was getting to the point where I started to hate it in a way because it's something that was expected. And then, you get good at something and then the pressure gets more. And that's just not, it kind of was very difficult for me at that point. So that's one reason why I just had to stop it and find something totally different.
Absolutely. Well, a great answer so far, really good. And as I mentioned before, it's a very brave thing to talk about any of these things that are quite personal in a way. But again, it's all about showing people the answers to some of these problems because how many kids are pushed into things all around the world by their parents, and they may want to do sports, but they may not want to be sort of a carbon copy of their parents. They might want to do it a different way. So even the fact you broke out of that, I think that's a wonderful life lesson right there. And we're only just getting started. So when it came to that process of basically forging your own path, first and foremost, and everything like that, you mentioned that you were a little bit interested in that, but it sounded like there was something else there that was catching your interest a little bit. So was any of the aspects of Ironman, any of the running or any of the swimming coming into your life at that point, or was that still later on as well?
That came all later. So basically, I just wanted to get out of this little village. I wanted to get out in the world. I wanted to build my own life, find myself, or maybe first lose myself before I could find myself. So I just wanted to come to America. I had been to LA many times before, and I kind of fell in love with LA first time I came at 11 years old. And I knew I had to come here, and I somehow had to find a way to build a life here. So I came to Los Angeles, and first things, well, I came to Los Angeles and I knew I needed a change and I knew I needed to break away from everything. But that kind of sucked me into a totally different lifestyle. So I quickly made friends and got involved with, the Hollywood glam and all that kind of stuff. And that also quickly brought me, I got involved very deeply with drugs. And that just ended in a real deep spiral down over many years. And with all the good and bad stuff that is connected. And that had to get me down on my knees first. And when I really hit rock bottom, after all that I've been through with all that happened, that's when when I was able to start actually my new life. And that's when the running came into play. So the running kind of helped me free my soul, my head, myself. I mean, I was barely able to even maybe run 400 meters in the beginning. I just had to get myself out. And, the recovery process was very long and difficult. So, the first year was incredibly difficult. The second year was still very difficult. And then from there on, it got a little bit easier. But the running just helped me immensely. And then I would just get up in the morning, go out into the park early in the morning before anyone else was there. I was just myself and the universe. I could breathe the air and just be with myself and kind of try to find myself. I rediscover myself in some sort of way. And it's just very difficult to even put into words how the running freed my entire being. I would just go and run, and it would get longer and longer and better and faster, and it would just help me immensely in my entire life. So little by little, the running was basically the medicine that got me back onto my feet and back into life. And well, with that, everything else started to slowly fall into place again. I found a great job. I started to make a little bit of money. I was able to build my life, and everything else was starting to fall into place. And I started running a 5K, and I thought, well, maybe I should sign up for a little race and see how that goes and see how I feel about myself. And that's how it all started.
Wow, absolutely incredible. It's an incredible story. As I've already said earlier, very brave to share it first and foremost, in the hopes that that helps people, as I'm sure it will. But also the story of your recovery, basically during that time with the running, is beautiful description. When you were saying about the being in the parks and things, I felt like I was there for a moment, and I have heard that described by friends of mine who've been through a similar thing, almost reconnecting with yourself, reconnecting with your body, and sort of being in the moment. It's a very, very powerful thing. Was it your idea then to start running? You thought like I needed a change, or was it something that somebody suggested, or something maybe you saw somewhere? Where did that initial spark come from? Just
Actually, yeah, at that point, it was still in the very early days of my recovery when my mom was still alive, and I mean, it was really hard on her as well, of course, but she still never gave up on me, and she just dragged me out and said, come on, let's just run around the block. Maybe that will help you. And it was so hard. I mean, I could barely stand up straight. I was like, half my size. There was like, it was so difficult, but I just did it. And in the beginning, I didn't feel anything special about it. I think it was maybe too early in the recovery process, but later when I was able to, pull myself together, and when I had developed a little bit of hope, because I had lost every kind of hope. I mean, there was not one glimpse of hope left in me. I was so dead. I just wanted to die every day. That's all I wanted. And then one day I just got up and I said, okay, I'm just going to go and try it. And from there on, that little bit of hope, it just came back to me. It was like a little light inside myself was reignited again. And then that little light became a little bigger every day. And so I really have to kind of thank my mom for trying to push me into just run around the block, even if it's really difficult in the beginning. And from there, it just developed. And then I started appreciating it with all my heart. Like, really, it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful description, and um, well, giving that mention to your mom as well, I'm honored to give that a mention. To give her the mention that she pushed you in that way, and sort of give that thanks to her. Wow. So you were running then. Obviously, you fell in love with the process. Most importantly, 5Ks you mentioned. So did that progress in this way that people would expect, sort of 5Ks, 10Ks, maybe like a half marathon or something? Was it sort of that process?
Yeah, that's exactly how it went. So I thought, I should sign up for a little local race. And it was hard for me to just like get back into life, as to just like learn to, make my bed, brush my teeth, be on time, be at a certain place at a certain time, stuff like that. So just to show up and suit up for that race was like a big deal for me. And then I had no special fancy watch, or I didn't even know how much I was actually running when I was training and stuff like that. So I just went out there. I was there at the right time, and I ran a 5K, and I ended up, I think, placing within the top 3. So that was like such a motivation to me. It felt so empowering, and just I felt so good after. So then I thought, well, okay, let's do a 10K, and then after that, the 15K and a half marathon and so forth. And it just kept getting better and better, and I just kept feeling better and better every time. And the training, and it didn't feel like training or anything. It felt like something I needed. It helped me, not necessarily to substitute one addiction to another addiction, because some people might think that the running now is, my addiction, and in a way it might be, but it was more like really therapy, or still is.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and then I would watch a lot of the Kona World Championships, the Ironman stuff on TV, and I was just in awe. Like I would watch that, and I thought, well, this is so out of my league. This is something I could never ever do. And I would just dream about it, heroes in wetsuits on their bikes and doing incredible stuff. But it planted a seed in my brain just by watching that. And one day I thought, well, maybe I could just secretly sign up for a sprint triathlon and see how that goes. And I didn't really know how to swim that well, and I didn't have all the good equipment, but I thought, let's just give it a shot. And oh my God, that was even better than running. And it was more challenging. I think it's about the challenge, especially because I wasn't able to swim that well, and I had to learn that. And it's something I didn't like. I didn't really like the swimming. So it was like the next level. Like I was already stable now. I did the running. I felt good. I had a life. Things were looking up. But now it was more about doing something that you're not so good at, and maybe just taking the challenge and see how that goes. And that was the first step into my triathlon career.
Wow. Absolutely incredible story. I'm in awe of the whole thing. Hearing this, to be honest, it is amazing. So, sprint triathlon, great place to start. Carry on, please, from that point, just where it progressed from there. What your next step was, because um, just quickly before that as well, it's a very good lesson for people to enjoy the process, isn't it? So many people are so focused on the result and so focused on, I want to be at this point at this time. And, it's important to have goals, but the fact you were enjoying finding out how far you could go, what you said earlier about feeling free and everything. And it's a really fascinating process, and quite a beautiful journey to hear about, I don't suppose I always felt that way at times, but it certainly the way you freed your soul and what you said, that stayed with me. But anyway, excuse me waffling, I'm just amazed. But in terms of after the sprint triathlon, what was your next step from there, please?
So that was just like the very first dip into the water, just to try it out. And actually, I did very good. I placed, I think, third at my first one in my age group. So I thought that was, fantastic. But I still kind of put it on the back burner, because I thought, well, I'm still, I just didn't feel worthy of doing that. I felt like I'm just not good enough. I just thought the triathletes, they're a group of their own. I can never live up to that. And so it took me a while, and I tried another sprint one, and it went well again. And it just ignited again this fire within me. And I thought, So, but then what happened was, until I signed up for my first 70.3, my mom became very sick, and she was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer overnight. And so my life kind of turned upside down within a day. And that the whole thing was on the back burner, but and so I started taking care of her, and my main focus was on her. Yet I did always go for a little run here and there because it's just something I needed. I needed to keep my sanity and just to help focus, to be there for her and to be there for work and life and what else not. So after my mom passed away, I decided, okay, I'm going to sign up for Ironman 70.3. I still couldn't believe I would actually do such a thing. I mean, I had the full Ironman in my mind, but I thought it's just, I don't know if I could ever do such a thing. So I thought, okay, let's start with a half. And that was so special to me. I was like training for it and I was so excited. And I thought, oh my God, this is incredible. It's just, it just filled me with so much joy. And I think the happiness that this sport brings me is more important than any result. Like the results come, but without the joy, there's something missing. So that's really the main focus. And I got my first triathlon bike, like a really nice one, and I was able to pay that from the money from the job that I was making, and I felt good about these things because I was starting to feel good about myself. I was rebuilding my entire life, and those were all little factors that played a very important role. So then I really had to learn how to swim. Like I couldn't just pretend. So the swim, and then the bike, when you're on the road, just you and the bike and the road for hours, and you can just let go of your thoughts. And it's just so beautiful to me. It's just exactly what I needed. And so I was preparing, and then the actual race took place in December. And finally, race day came, and I thought, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But one guy said to me, well, it's very simple. We're just going to swim, then we're going to bike, and then we're going to run. And I thought, okay, that sounds good. I want to try that. And that's exactly what I did. And I did a pretty good swim. I did a really good bike, and I ended up doing a really good run too. And I thought I did a very good result for my first try. And that moment when I went through the finish line, that was when it was so emotional for me to just finish that. And I felt like the presence of my mom, and it was just like incredible.
Absolutely, absolutely incredible. I mean, I'm amazed that you can put something like that into words at all, to be quite honest, because I have spoken to some people and they just pretty much say, you know what, that the feeling that you get there, you can't really put that into words. But yes, I mean, I'm very much a believer that our loved ones watch over us, not to go off on a tangent, but I have heard more than one person mention that at the finish line as well, just out of interest for you. I've heard a few people mention, particularly their parents feeling them with them in those moments, which is absolutely lovely. So obviously from there, I mean, it was, I'd imagine, on an upward spiral. Your life was, I'm trying to think of a better term, but everything going so well. You're working, you're earning the money, you're feeling good about yourself, which is such a wonderful thing. And I would like to touch on that aspect of it briefly, because I feel that this will be quite relevant for people. Basically, my question here is about the concept of self-love and self-care and everything like that, because I'm not sure what your experiences were with this, but was there, or there was obviously bound to be a process of loving yourself again and getting comfortable with yourself. Was there a process for you, if you don't mind me asking, of any type of, um, I don't know if to say forgiveness, but any type of letting go of looking at, okay, that was the person I was then, this is the person I am now, how well I'm doing, and how well you were doing by that point. And just to take a moment to reflect on the inner journey to do with the self-worth, if you're okay to talk about this, because I just think it would be so valuable to people because so many people struggle with that. including myself in a way. So I've struggled with that too, with self-love. So it's very much a universal issue, I think. So it'd be good just to touch on that, please.
So it's a very good point because the self-worth really, I'm still working on that. What I was really living on was thankfulness. I was so happy that I got out of this. Like, I was so broken. I was so broken. I mean, I was in pretty much every institution there is out there. And I was so at the end that when I came back to life and I started rebuilding and just finding myself, I was just so happy and so thankful every day. I woke up thankful every day. And then I was able to be there for my mom when she was sick because I was actually, accountable. That was another thing I was so thankful for. So that was my main thing. I was just every day filled with thankfulness. And every day, somehow over the years, things got better because I had so many things also to deal with like I had legal stuff. I mean, so many things, and everything got resolved. Everything just started to get better. And for that, I was thankful. And that brought me that, I mean, I couldn't ask for anything but more. I was just really happy with that. The self-worth, that was still not really there because I really wasn't sure why good things are coming towards me and if I really deserve all of that, because I thought, I did so much bad stuff, I should not be receiving all this goodness. So I kind of pushed that, I think, into the back somewhere. I didn't really deal with that. That's more coming out now. And I'm working on that now these days. But in the beginning, I was just so happy that I was out of the hole and doing well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, gratitude is such a powerful thing, and personally, I've experienced that in my own life with gratitude. When you focus on the blessings, they multiply and everything. And people say that, or you might see that on social media and think, oh, it's just a saying, but it really is true. When what you focus on really does multiply. So it's a very powerful lesson because self-worth, self-love is something I would say it's actually one of the most common maladies that afflict people in the world for different reasons. A lot of it has to do with our upbringing, but that was a reason for focusing on that. So tremendous success with your first Ironman event. Let's go back to that, and we need to continue the progression from there. But before we do, I mean, how many of these have you actually done? Because you've obviously been in the World Championships and you've been in different things. I was reading up on it. So how many Ironman events, full length or the 70.3 have you done altogether?
Okay, so I've done 6 70.3s so far and two full ones. I'm going to be doing my third full one next year.
Incredible in itself. I mean, one of the toughest sports events in the world, and I think it's the toughest one day event and everything. I mean, it's incredible. So obviously with this, I'm just thinking now we need to break this down because you have so many stories and everything in different locations and different things like that. I think one of the ways to break this down a little bit as well, is there one of them that you are perhaps more proud of than the others, or are you proud of them all equally? Oh, that's a yes. Okay, so there's one that stands out, or maybe more than one. Let's hear about that a little bit, please.
Yes. Okay. So my big goal was at some point to do a full Ironman. So I had planned this for such a long time. So I signed up for Santa Rosa, but I was so like I was like somehow not paying attention to what I'm doing, and I signed up for the wrong year. So I signed up for the and I don't know how this can happen. I guess it happened. So, but because it was still early, I could defer. So I was able to defer to the next year. But the problem was the next year COVID hit. So that year never happened either. So, but then by that time, Santa Rosa was canceled and it became Ironman California. So that would have been the third year that I was waiting to finally do my Ironman. So, but I mean, I've been training and training, to get to that point. Then COVID hit. Then I've been training and training for Ironman California, and I've been preparing. And things weren't going that well. I was injured. I was. I didn't have that much support. I was just kind of by myself trying to figure out how to prepare myself for this incredible distance. And so I went, and I was already in my wetsuit at the start line, and a bomb cyclone hit and the event was canceled. So it was basically a storm and rain and everything you can possibly imagine. It was pure chaos. And I thought, this can't be true. This can't be true. I'm so close to finally doing my Ironman, and now it's being canceled. So I thought, this is just, I didn't know what to think anymore. So obviously we could defer from there, but this was a kind of a chaotic process as well. So I signed up within this chaos for Mexico. And then the problem was that I was still injured, and Mexico, I couldn't go. And it was so complicated with the many things. So I emailed Ironman, and I know it's sometimes very difficult with them, but a miracle happened. And they said, okay, no problem. You can defer, because I was asking if I could change it to Texas. So Texas, 2018, it would have been. So that was like the fourth year that I had to wait because California didn't happen. So, okay. So this all happened in, let's say, November, and then the race would have been in April, the Texas race. So I was just like through the ringer by then, but at least I had the Texas in mind. So Ironman Texas, that's going to be my race. This is it. That's my Ironman. So what made it so special is, first of all, this whole waiting period, this whole preparation, all the injuries, everything that I've been through. Okay, fine, this is normal stuff. But then somehow I started to crumble, like mentally, my life. I started to question everything. I was starting to become unhappy. Work, life, so many things. I was starting to fall apart. And I was going into the old direction. And basically, I was just waiting for an opportunity. And that opportunity to relapse, it happened. And so I really didn't think that could ever happen after being clean and sober for almost 9 years. But it did. And it was just awful. And okay, so that happened. But what happened, and then I thought, well, okay, so how am I supposed to now prepare for an Ironman? Because I mean, I was just like, finished mentally, physically, everything. And I was just on my way back down again. So I thought, okay. So this is where I would say the next chapter of my life starts. And this is now close to 2 years ago that this happened. And this is probably the most special part of my life. So I've known this person, her name is Ellie. She's a fitness instructor at LA Fitness where I go to, and I've known her for a while. I've been taking her classes and stuff. She's also from Germany, so we had a little bit of a connection there. But somehow we weren't really that close or anything, but somehow, why, I don't know, the universe wanted it like that. I reached out to her and I kind of asked for help. And so I remember that day so well, like it was yesterday. I was too afraid to actually call her, but I sent her a message. I'm like, can we talk? And I said, and then she called me, and I told her what happened. And then from that day on, she just kind of took me under her wing, and she said, okay, you're gonna check in with me every day, and we're gonna do this. We're gonna get you back on your feet. and we're gonna do the Ironman, and that's it. So this was the start of a completely yet new life. It was a start of a friendship that I didn't even know a friendship like that could exist. Someone being so good to me and help me and I don't even have words to describe that. And then I was so I had built such a wall, and it was hard for me to communicate. Like I couldn't even talk to people. And Ellie, she was just so like patient with me, like until I started to talk, until I was able to let that wall down a little bit and let me in and stuff like that. So basically we said, oh, okay, let's do this Ironman thing. And we had February, March, 1.5 months left. And somehow it all worked out. I went to Texas by myself, and I was so happy to be there, and I had such a hard time getting there, and I still had drugs and stuff in my head, but I had that Ironman goal, and I said, whatever happens today, I will become an Ironman. I don't know, I don't care how, but I will. And I was so it was such a special moment for me. I went to that start line, and I was so nervous, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it. And I started with the swim, and that went well, really well. And then the bike, well, it was a long bike ride, very heavy winds, and the sun was just beating down. And for some strange reason, I thought I don't need sunscreen. So I got this incredible sunburn that was not just a sunburn, it was like so bad that I had blisters all over, and I didn't even know how I was supposed to get off the bike with that sunburn, but I really didn't care, because all I cared about was becoming an Ironman. So and then I had to start the run, and then that sunburn hit me, and it was like a heat stroke, and I was really struggling through the run. But that day I became an Ironman, and that, I think, was the most special moment in my life.
That is absolutely incredible. I mean, there's a lot of things, and I'm resisting the temptation to go off on various tangents here, because obviously the perseverance with the cancellations and all of that side of things, a lot of people would have given up. I mean, that's a big one. But a lot of things struck me about this, but the big one was what you said about your special friendship. I mean, that is really something that's um, I really feel that twin flame, or this concept. People talk about people use these different expressions, but that thing where you're on the same frequency, you just understand each other. And again, with that in mind, I'd like to briefly touch on this, and for the reason that I think it's very relevant to people in terms of the concept of opening up to people after trauma or after difficult things, because if you think about this, one of the biggest things they always say with mental health as a broad topic now to start off with is people say, okay, talk about it, speak out, don't keep it to yourself, don't suffer in silence, whatever. And the reason I'm going down that line is it's a cause of a lot of problems. I mean, people put a lot of suffering on themselves because they don't reach out and ask for help. And you said about that wall being around you, and I'd like to touch on that with basically how you broke through the wall, um, how you got to the point to trust someone to say, okay, well, look, they can know this about me. They can know maybe the worst thing about me, but it's still okay for that person. And with this, we don't have to have, I mean, whatever you talked about, that's between you and her, and that's none of my business. But the process of how you did it, I think would be of great benefit to people, like the self-love thing, because a lot of people basically don't know how to do that, and they probably want to do it. And it'd just be good to touch on how that all came down, basically.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a process. So also what I have to mention is, like, I was really looking up to her because she's she's a BMX world champion. And so I knew she was someone, like, I was really looking up to her in so many ways. And then somehow there was a connection. It was just there. That's one thing. But then we would just sit there sometimes for hours, and she would just try to get something out of me, just something to open up. And I would have such a hard time because I wouldn't trust anyone, nobody. And I didn't know how to just break the wall down. But I think it was just her not giving up on me. Like she would just try to talk about little things, like nothing too personal. It would come, it would eventually all trickle out, but we would just get together and little by it was just like pulling teeth. It was, I mean, a nightmare. But after a while, I got a little bit better, and I could feel, you know what it was? I think I felt the relief. Like every time I said a little something, like I would just trust her a little bit, and she would show me that I could trust her. So that helped. I think every time a little bit more out of me came out, the wall broke down just a little bit more, and we kept peeling that those layers off one by one by one. And every time I just felt liberated a little bit more. And that feeling that I could actually trust someone, I think that was the most difficult for me to overcome that. But again, that kind of gave me the best feeling in the world. And we would go and train together, and then that would bring me such happiness, and it would also help me trust. So I think the trust was the main issue for me, and we worked through that, and just by talking a little bit every day, a little bit, and very slowly it started to get better. And sometimes you just have to do it without overthinking it. And she was also very patient. She's very patient with me. I think that helps a lot because yeah, so really not much more than that to it. It just little by little. But you know what it is also, I was very willing. Like you can't, like you have to want to accept the help, and I really wanted it. And so I really had to do my part as well. It's not just that you ask for help, and it's just, you know, it just, we worked so well together. And I think it's a little bit of a miracle that this happened, because you don't just meet a person where this works like this every day. So I think it was just like the universe put us together for some reason, and it just brought, my God, so much goodness that I don't even, and I really still don't know why and how I deserve it, but I'm trying to just accept it and be happy with it.
Absolutely. Well, you should. I mean, this is the thing, Angel. You know, you have a wonderful heart and soul, and I don't think you appreciate that. But well, it's very difficult, isn't it, when a person is looking at their own selves? You always pick holes in things and say, "Well, what about this? What about that?" But from the outside, people often see something else. And before we go back into the Iron Man side of things and go a bit deeper into that. You've mentioned about the universe and you've mentioned about faith quite a few times as well. And I also think this is a very big topic because having faith in something bigger than ourselves, however people term that, you know, the fact that there is something else influencing our lives in some way, I believe that very much. I've experienced it a lot of times with um, synchronistic events and things that have happened in sort of a pattern and everything. You look back on it and you think, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But in terms of how you opened yourself up to that or became aware of the universe or you know your faith type of faith, and people associate faith with religion and things, but it's got nothing to do with that. It's got to do with having trust in, I think, the process of life itself, and as you say, the universe, the world, whatever you want to call it. How did that happen to you? Was that something that came to you in recovery or later? Or let's hear a little bit about that, please.
You know, I just sometimes wonder how that all happened. But if you think about it, this is just so unusual. I mean, this is basically what saved me. So I can only describe it as something that the universe, like, I mean, this is bigger than me. It's bigger than life that something like that would happen, because these things don't happen just like that. It was always almost like it was just like meant to be. And I don't know how else to describe it. Yeah. I
That's
mean, a person was put into my life at the right moment, at the right time, for the perfect reason, and not just a person, the right person. I mean, and from there on, things just started to get better and better. That was just the beginning, and from there, the big my much bigger successes actually started to come into place, and happiness came into my heart. Like, that's the main thing. With the happiness, always the success comes every time.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, this is the thing is that your journey, well, I think people's journeys are in general, but we're talking a lot about the inner journey here as well, and it's that's what's really powerful about this is then what's happening to you on the outside is sort of a reflection of that in a way, and I can see how one is mirroring the other, even now, if that might sound a bit strange. But in terms of something else with this as well, because as we come into the latter phase of this for people's attention, we'll talk about the future and we'll talk about a few other things. But one of the intangible benefits as well as winning and becoming a better version of yourself and saying, that you're an Ironman and you're in that league. Traveling and seeing different parts of the world as well, I think is an intangible benefit, is what I call it. In other words, it's not the physical thing that people always think of. But a lot of times when I speak to top athletes, they get to go places they never would have gone if they were just working at a normal job and everything like that. I think that might be interesting to talk about for you because at a point in time when you were at rock bottom, I mean, even living a happy life and being even walking around and doing normal stuff, obviously seeing a million miles away, never mind traveling to some sort of exotic location and things like that. So could you just tell us a little bit about some of the places that the competing in Ironmans has taken you that you wouldn't have gone already, if that makes sense?
So I think traveling to different countries just kind of always opens your horizon, and you see different cultures, and you learn and meet new people, and I think that's just so important, like, just to communicate with other people from other countries. And so when I was young and growing up in Germany, we did travel a lot, and I got to see a lot of places, which I thought was just really important. Now, for the Ironman thing, I did most of my races in the US, but it did bring me to a few different places, which was still very interesting. Now, the highlight was, of course, the 70.3 World Championships, where I never thought I would in my entire life qualify. But, Ellie, she always believes in me, and especially when I don't believe in myself, because I still don't seem to believe in myself. At least someone does. So that what took place in Finland, and I had never been to Finland before. So that was definitely an incredible experience to see the Finnish people. And we took a day trip to Estonia and to see the history of the country and to talk to the people a little bit, and the scenery. And it's just so beautiful. It's really an enrichment to have the privilege to do something like that.
Absolutely. It's amazing. And it's something I think that really comes out of these experiences, especially for people who are starting out as well in some type of sport as well as they progress. It's something because to me the traveling thing it still ties in with the intangible or with the inner experience. You know, it still ties in with that. You broaden your horizons. You meet different types of people. It's something to touch on. If I freeze up, just let me know because I think it froze there just for a moment. But anyway, so that's that side of it with the traveling. Now another topic about this, and shortly we'll look to the future, but obviously competing in athletics to this degree and you know being as fit and strong and everything you have to be, the endurance, you obviously love the actual motion and the actual being in the moment of running and swimming and all these things. But when the pain does hit and you have to push through that, obviously it's something that I think it will be very interesting for people mentally because again, feeding back to the life lessons, whatever people do in life, there's always going to be some sort of pain barrier to get to the finish line, you know, even if it's not literally a finish line. So, with that in mind, when you do have to push through the pain barrier or whatever term you'd like to use, the fatigue hits you, etc., what's your method for keeping going with that, basically?
I think I have a very strong will. And if I have put something into my head, then I will get it somehow. I will go through the wall. Like for instance, this my first Ironman, I was suffering so badly with that heat stroke on the run, and I was literally I didn't even know which direction I was going anymore. There was volunteers who had to actually point me in the right direction because I didn't know which end was up anymore, and I didn't know how I was going to finish. I didn't know how, and it was so bad that I actually collapsed right after the finish line. But all I knew was that giving up is not an option. It's not an option. There is no way I'm not going to finish this race. And I think if you have that kind of drive, no matter what it is in life, if you have a goal that you can work for, and if you really want something, then I just give it my all. And I like to have a dream or because that's kind of how it all starts. You have a dream and then you set a goal and then you work towards it. And then, yeah, there's going to be lots of obstacles. But if you really want to get there, you just got to keep going. You can't just give up. You'll find a way. There is a way. There's always some sort of way. Maybe you just don't see it, but you just got to keep going. I think that's what it is. And once you hit that finish line, you're so, you know, the feeling you get that you actually overcame all those obstacles and you made it, no matter what it is in life, then that gives you all you need, you know, to step it up and it's just, you know, it's a feeling that it's you can I don't know how to describe it. It's so worth it. All the suffering and everything you put in, it's so worth it.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's powerful and it's something that I know, you know, you will have a great insight into because obviously because of recovery and everything and the struggles with that. And yeah, I think you have a will of iron, and it's very in keeping with the Iron Man name, to be quite honest. So it's a very good topic to touch on and everything like that. I mean, there's been some very powerful topics. I mean, if you think about this, we've touched on self-love, we touched on faith, we've touched on opening up and trust and intimacy, I would say, and not in the physical sense, but in the emotional and spiritual sense, you know. These type of things are very beneficial to people. Well, you know, everyone who listens to this. Now, obviously, talking about the future as well, because one of the amazing things about your life is you're still on the up, basically. You know, the sky's the limit is all these phrases, but basically, one of the things that really does come across is right at the beginning of this call, you know, we talked about you hitting that rock bottom. And I know it sounds like a bit of a cliche, but I think it is true when people hit that rock bottom, the only way you can go is up. And it sounds like you're still on that upward trajectory. So in terms of what you'd like to achieve from this point forwards in Ironman, but in any other life area that you feel comfortable talking about, is basically just to get a feel for what's inspiring you for however far you want to go the rest of 2023, further in time. It's entirely up to you, but just what the future holds for you, basically.
So, well, in life in general, I'm just kind of right now letting things come towards me, because things are just like, I don't know, it's like this new chapter where I've rediscovered happiness, and with that usually good things happen. So I'm just going to see how this all pans out. Now, as to my Ironman endeavors, I my goal, okay, so I'm going to be doing Texas again next year. And well, the goal would be to qualify for World Championships. It won't be Kona, but it would be Nice, France, which I'll take it if I can get it. Um, it's it's such a huge thing for me, and it's something that, I mean, any triathlete can only dream about. And to really make something like that happen is huge, because there goes so much into it, so much training, so much preparation, mentally, physically, and then you have to deal with injuries and little setbacks and stuff like that. And to get it all ready for that one day and then hope for the best, it's not so easy. So that's the goal. I don't know what's going to happen. I always like to go into a race and take the pressure off, because the main thing is to have fun, have a good time, and make it to the finish. And everything else is extra, is a bonus. And if I can do and get it done, then that, my God, that would be another dream come true. I mean, you know what I've learned? One thing I've learned is that dreams actually do come true. I did not believe that. I really didn't believe it. And I've learned that within the past almost 2 years, that it's possible. As it says, the Ironman slogan, anything is possible. It really is.
Absolutely, absolutely it is. And I really feel, Angel, that your life is a testament to that. And one of the things I'm sure you consider this, but one of the things you should take away with you is when you're doing what you're doing, the impact you're having on other people who are watching in one way or another, the fact that anything is possible. What I'm trying to say, I feel that you represent that concept of anything being possible very, very well in your life. And it's one of those things where I don't mean that to put any pressure on you or anything, just by being yourself, when you do really well in a race and these things, by default, then it has that impact of people looking at it and thinking, okay, I can do something. And whether it is literally the recovery and that process, and whether it's that, okay, but there's a lot of other things as well, because like we talked about today, you show people that they can open up to somebody. That's a big thing about whatever it is. I mean, it could be something quite different, but they can find that faith in something bigger than themselves, even if they don't have it. As you say, dreams do come true. I mean, a lot of people are in these situations where they think, oh, that's not possible, that's not going to happen for me. I think a lot of those people have somewhere in there, inside them, is a little seed of, I really think it could happen, but I'm not going to dare to even think about it because it seems so far. I'm not even going to say to myself it could happen because it seems so far out of there. But then by, seeing somebody like yourself, so this is the thing, it's not just sports and it's not just recovery. Although, with that being said, mind you, I would like to ask one other thing, and we'll wrap this up shortly. But in terms of if people do want to reach out to you to find out about recovery, I mean, I think you're in a very good, obviously a very good position to advise people to a certain degree. Now, I know obviously there's always these qualifications and all this stuff you can have, but there's nothing like living it. So if there's somebody watching this, even if they're in Europe or somewhere else, and they want to reach out to you, or they have a family member or anybody who's addicted to something, and obviously there's not only drugs, there's other things as well. Can they reach out to you and sort of ask questions and find out about it? And if so, can you share the best places to get hold of you, basically, and that type of thing?
Yes, absolutely. I'd be more than happy to, you know, give some sort of advice or just sometimes listen. That's sometimes all it takes. Because it's always good to pay it forward. Absolutely. So, I'm on Facebook, Angel Diamond Messenger. I'm also on Instagram. It's at Angel_Diamond 30. And please, yes, I mean, it's sometimes hard to like believe that there is hope, but there really is. And if there's anyone out there, I would be more than happy to help and just, have a little bit of advice if that's what I can do, for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, it's something that, like what you said earlier, I mean, you have to be ready, or not you, but in this case, those people have to be ready for receiving that help. And I know I'm certainly not putting it out there that you have the ability to solve everybody's problems or anything like that, because it's still something people have to help themselves, you know. But at the same time, those little things of pointing people in the right direction, or these little things that make a difference, that's very powerful because with these types of situations, obviously a lot of people feel completely lost and don't know which way to turn. So that was the feeling that I had, and that's from whatever you want to call it, from something bigger than me, that there will be people who want to reach out. Maybe they have been already, but there certainly will be people who want to reach out and say, look, okay, what do I do about this? Very much from the point of view of the principles, not the specifics, so it might be running, but it might be something else. But the principle of having something to focus on, that'll never fail. And the same thing, the principle of trusting somebody because you can't do it really on wrong in all cases, that'll never fail. So it doesn't have to be literally your way, but it can be. But the principles of what you've done, they will always be true, and I really think that will have a positive impact on people. So we've talked about a lot. I mean, it's what is it, about an hour or so that's flown by. Um, I mean, I know, funny enough, with the Ironman themselves, we've sort of scratched the surface of them really, but we talked about a lot of things. And what I was hoping with this, Angel, was really what we've got, fun stories from what you've achieved. Absolutely, we've got that. But also this deeper aspect of things that connect with I'm going to say connect with people's souls, really, because some of the stuff we've talked about today is deep enough to really share aspects of the human experience that are not talked about enough, if you get what I mean. So definitely tick the boxes I was aiming for. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention before we wrap this up, or are you happy with everything that we've covered and
I'm actually really happy with everything that we've covered. The main thing I just want to share is that, dream. Don't be afraid to dream and believe in yourself. And I think just realize that things can actually happen. It's such a powerful thing, but it does happen if you just believe in it a little bit.
absolutely, yeah.
And thank you so much for, having me on your show and giving me the opportunity to share my story and to hopefully maybe inspire just one person out there. And it's a great honor.
Well, likewise for me as well, Angel, because it's a great honor for me to be the one helping you get the story out there, but also to hear these things and to be um, sort of trusted enough in a way in this situation for you to share these things and the fact you feel comfortable like that and everything. It's an honor for me as well in that way. So I'll release this as soon as I can. I will send it to you as soon as it's released for you to share as well and everything. That'd be great. No mistakes, so nothing to cut. And the biggest thing I think is you need to give yourself a round of applause, seriously, because I've no idea how many of these you've done, but what's amazing about it is that you have, well, I knew it would be good, but you've exceeded the expectations I personally had for it. You know, I knew we would talk about some good things because reaching the level of sports that you've achieved, you know, there's obviously going to be great stories. Recovering from what you've recovered from, there's obviously going to be good stories. But at the same time, it's gone a lot deeper than that. And when I contacted you for the interview, obviously it's partly what you've achieved and what you're doing, but part of it is there's sort of an instinct that I have, there's a feeling that I have that just says to me, okay, that's the right person people need to hear from. You need to speak to that one. Because obviously, just being a champion isn't enough on its own. It's what people do with it. It's what they do with it that goes beyond themselves. You know. I mean, obviously, you get people who are top athletes, but they won't speak to people. They're rude and they don't have time for people and all this. So obviously, if there's somebody like that, even if they're really successful, they still won't. They're not having them on the show because they don't represent the right type of thing. You know. Whereas obviously with yourself, you're a very positive person, very kind, caring person, and you have a lot to share in that way. So that was my um, sort of pull as well as what you've achieved, if that makes sense. But anyway, so yes, leave it with me. I will get this over to you as soon as I can, and we will get it out there and inspire some people. It's as simple as that.
Thank you so much, Liam. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.